Hi guys, welcome to this video. This is the second of the videos I'm doing for Aerosoft's F-14X. This is the F-14B. What we're going to do is get airborne and start messing around with it, and we'll see what the relationship is between the aircraft and what allegedly it should be according to the manual. So let's just put the wing sweep into auto. Last thing I want to be doing is trying to mess around with that, make sure they're coming forwards, and they are. Set the first stage flaps, and away we go. Take the brakes off. Now, one of the things you need to do is you need to advance the throttles gradually with this. Although the F-110 engines were less susceptible to compressor stall, they're still fairly old technology compared to what we have now. They are sensitive to how you use them. You'll notice the speed doesn't increase that much until we get above 100, and then it really starts to go for it. So let's get ourselves off the ground. Get the gear tucked away, get the flaps tucked away, and let's accelerate. This is Culdrose, by the way, an airfield with which I'm very familiar, and it's FTX England for our scenery. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do some, we're going to climb to height to start with, and then we're going to do some low speed handling, and then some high speed handling. And we'll discuss the issues with this. Now, the first time I jumped into this aircraft, I did what I think we're all guilty of doing, jumping into the aircraft and hooning it around and thinking, well, hey, look, I've got a fighter, I can fly it. Not so. And this is the kind of aircraft where you have to read the books, and you have to read the books very well. It brings with it, what's the question, what's a study sim? Now, PMDG's renowned for study sims, A2A are renowned for study sims, Aerosoft get a mixed reception, and it depends what the aircraft is. So, for example, I know their Airbus has received a bit of criticism from some corners where they're going, oh, you know, it's some of the things in it don't work. Do you really want the flight control computers to be simulated? Really? Is that the exciting thing to do with the flight simulator, or do you want to fly? And that is the element of it with this. Is it a study sim? For me, yes, it is. Does it replicate every system perfectly? Probably not. The ones I've used, it does. But the key here is that it's a fighter. Its flight dynamics are very different to that of a 737 or a 757 or even a Cessna 182. It doesn't matter which aircraft you look at. The second thing is, this is not a current generation fighter. It's old technology, and as a result of being old technology, it has some foibles. It's hydraulics, it's got no fly-by-wire. All the handling characteristics are as a result of some designer sitting down with, or a team of designers sitting down with pens and paper, and you know, this was generated in the days before you had computer-aided design. It's a fantastic piece of modelling, but it requires pilot input, and that's where I would argue that this does become a study sim, is the need to have pilot input. This is not an easy plane to operate in all areas of its envelope. What you can see is we get quite good performance. We're going up like a lovesick angel. We're past 15,000 feet. We've only been off the ground about a minute and a half. We're doing zoom climbs, by the way. What we're doing is we're climbing, we're levelling off, we're building our speed, and then we're climbing again. And you can see already we're starting to get some of the handling traits coming in here with that yaw oscillation, which I'll go about a bit more once we get up to about 20,000 feet, and we'll start having a look at it. So we'll go up to 20,000 feet, and then what we'll do is we'll look at slow speed flight to start with, seeing as we're slow, and then we'll look at high speed flight, and then we'll look at a couple of other bits in terms of the handling of the aircraft. So 20,000 feet. Now, you've noticed I'm rolling to bring the nose back down there. This aircraft does not like negative G. It's one of the ways you can cause problems with the engines, and certainly the A model was very susceptible to things like compressor stalls. Okay, we're at a reasonable altitude, we're at a reasonable speed. This is a normal speed, and the first thing to go through is stability. This thing has good stability in certain axes, not so good in others. So I've got my hands off now. You can see it's fairly well trimmed. It's not doing anything untoward pitch wise, but it's rolling. That's nothing to do with me, that's to do with the trim. And you'll see it does start leveling. It's got dihedral effect. It will deviate through a gust or whatever to one side, and then it will start to level itself through that dihedral effect. and it does have some good positive dihedral effects. One of the other things is it does have longitudinal stability, i.e. if I disturb the nose down, the speed will increase, the wing lift will change. The wings are still forwards. The wing lift will change, and eventually the nose will rise. We may or may not see it. The problem we have is that the period, i.e. the time for this to take place, is very long. So in terms of slow speed handling, there's nothing scary. It handles just like any other plane at that stage. The only thing is you get this, you can see it, I've got no hands on the controls, you get this wing rock effect, which I think would probably be slightly nauseous. But it's renowned that you don't really take your hands off flying this plane. And that's one of the things why, A, it's a study sim, and B, why it becomes a challenge for you as a pilot to operate it. So that's the element in terms of that. Now your stability, it's got good directional stability. Now obviously one of the things outside to consider, you can see it rocking slightly as we fly. One of the things to consider is if it's got all this flying surface here, two fins, two rudders, ventral strakes, that is to produce your stability. Why do we need it? You know, this ring walk, by the way, is marked, but it's normal. The augmentation systems, the stability augmentation systems, do help. The main stability comes from the dihedral effect when you've got the wings forward. Once you get to high-speed flight, the effects change, and you will see that. But it's relatively benign, relatively easy to trim. There's no real issues in normal flight. However, we then get to high angles of attack and slow speed flight. First thing, I've closed the throttle, speed doesn't come off particularly quickly. The speed brake in the notes isn't particularly effective at lower speed. You can see it's coming down. However, the way to get speed off apparently is to use high angles of attack, high alpha, and you can see how quickly that's coming off, but we'll not do it too fast. So slow speed manoeuvring, it doesn't stall. This is the first thing where it differs from a normal aircraft. It does not stall. Well, okay, I'll rephrase that. It does stall, but it does not stall in the normal sense of an aircraft. In other words, you don't get increasing buffet, you don't get the same issues with wing drop necessarily, you don't lose control effectiveness. This thing maintains yaw and rudder effectiveness, well, aileron effectiveness down to a very low airspeed, below 100 knots, which for a fighter jet is quite remarkable. Now the stall is identified by a couple of combinations of things. You can see we've got some roll instability coming in, 100 knots, 106 knots. It's identified by full backstick and a rate of descent of more than, I think it's 5,000 feet a minute. Lots of roll instability there. You've got to be careful because you've got the opportunity for a departure. When you get that instability, you've got to refrain from using, I wasn't going to go into departures yet, you've got to refrain from using, don't play that bad game. Don't. Right, you've got to refrain from using lateral stick, because once that oscillation's in, lateral stick puts in adverse yaw, the adverse yaw makes it all worse. So this is a very, very interesting aircraft when you get to slow speed flight. So as you can see, we would normally have stable flight, 300 odd knots, not a problem, very benign. You can trim it out, it just sits there, does as it's told. Once you get to high alpha, high angles of attack, it becomes a whole different beast, and it doesn't stall in the normal configuration, or the normal sense, if you like, of stalling. So a 1G level stall, for example, which is pretty much where we're at the moment, means basically what you're trying to do is maintain your altitude whilst progressively pulling back on the stick. Now, you saw the alpha, the angle of attack, went well beyond 20 into 30 units. You can maintain aileron and rudder control down to 30 units, but once you go past that, you have progressively less control. So as we come down, we haven't got any flaps or slats out, so we haven't got anything that's going to give us if you like, a control rigging problem. But you can see the angle of attack as I'm trying to maintain altitude now is starting to go rapidly down. The airspeed's going rapidly down. I'm putting no lateral stick or rudder input. As it gets to 30 degrees, I've still got some available input. Keep pulling, it goes into stall, sticks fully back, and now we've got our divergent controls. Okay, let's get back from that. We don't want to be pointing quite so badly at the sea. Oh, don't do that, don't do that. Adverse roll can be, adverse yaw, sorry, can be quite significant in this aircraft if you are mishandling the controls. So you can see, just messing around with those 2 or 3 stalls, we've lost 10,000 feet plus. So let's get ourselves climbing again. Okay, so that's slow speed fight and approaching the stalls, and in fact I think, you know, good indication of the 2 stalls. But you can see that at normal positions we've got good stability, even at high angles of attack. When we were at 20-25 degrees, sorry, 20-25 units alpha, you could see that the nose wasn't waving around. We had good stability directionally, we had good dihedral, we weren't side slipping, we weren't rolling. As soon as we went beyond 30 degrees alpha, it all started to go a bit pear-shaped. And then the stall, yeah, it doesn't follow the normal stall indications. It can be fully developed or fully defined with just full aft stick and a high rate descent. It doesn't need to be throwing yourself out the sky. Now, again, above 30 degrees alpha, which we did, we achieved 30 degrees alpha plus, the rudder is blocked by the fuselage, and if you have the wrong stick or rudder inputs, you can produce side slip and you can produce all sorts of problems, which is where we went with that. So, other things to be mindful of, by the way, is when you're manoeuvring, be conscious of the potential for compressor stall. Compressor stall, you hear is a big pop, whereas a bang. Yeah, speed slows down, we get oscillatory roll. That's not mishandling of the aircraft per se. When you read the aircraft notes, that's normal. So we'll put a good handful of throttle in, get ourselves to a decent speed. I've got afterburner in, but we've got quite a high alpha. The angle of attack is currently 18 units. So yeah, land is over there, I fear. Yeah, there it is. Let's get back towards land. 16,000 feet, that's enough to mess around with a little bit more. Okay. Sweeps auto still, which is good because we're going to go and try and do something a little bit more high speed. Now, high speed is where it's different. This is a swing wing aircraft, and as a result of being swing wing, the geometry changes throughout and the flight dynamics and characteristics change throughout. Now, when you've got the wings swept fully back, what you've got is a very nose heavy aircraft at that point, and that needs a lot of control authority from the stabilators, the elevons at the back. That's why they have such a wide range of movement. They also mean that the aircraft has the potential to generate huge forces in roll, if you imagine with the differential. So if we just pop outside, it has the ability, although you've got these are the primary roll controls, and also the elevator pitch controls, although it's got, and you can see them here, the secondary roll controls in terms of the spoilers, the main ones, the primary ones, are these, and you can see how little they move. But you have massive potential authority with them. So with regards to that, one of the things they have to be aware of is that because you have such big control authority here, if you didn't use the spoilers and you didn't restrict this, you have the potential to bend and twist all of this. Okay, so one of the things they've done is they've limited the roll response to excuse me, 200 degrees per second at every speed. It's throughout the speed range, so let's just put 5 degrees nose up so that we don't plummet into the ground, and full stick 200 degrees per second. Now, the next thing to be aware of is because of the roll, the stability augmentation system gets rid of most of the problems, but in terms of roll, you do have issues in terms of stability, and you've already seen that we can get quite a decent roll rate. However, it needs damping with the stability augmentation system, and the main reason for that is with high roll rates you can have issues with over control. So in terms of high roll rates, you go all the way around, and then you've got to try and preempt it. And I preempted that by full opposite stick, 90 degrees before the turn stopped. So what I'll do is I'll shout out when I'm putting in full opposite stick. So full into turn, out of turn. That was a bit early. And you can see the difficulties now. When you come out of this turn, excuse me, when you come out of this turn, you've got two issues. You've got yaw instability, dynamic yaw responses, and also roll. So let's have a look at that again to the right. Nice quick roll, level the wings, undercut there. And now you can see, if I do this, you can see the adverse yaw, you can see the nose is going left and right. Now one of the things they say in the books that you can do to increase your turn, your turn can be enhanced by sticking rudder in, and you can see the speed of that turn there. That's quite phenomenal. However, you need even longer to anticipate pulling out of that roll. So what I'll do is I'll do the same thing again, and I'll tell you when I'm recovering. So 330 knots, put a bit of power on, nose up, and full left rudder, full left aileron to recovering. You see, that was a good 90 to 100 degrees beforehand, and we have a lot of wing rock and a lot of yaw. That's normal. That's absolutely bang on normal according to the handling notes. Aerosoft have nailed it. And you know, this is the element as to why this for me is a study sim. It's not necessarily all about the systems of operating an aircraft. Sometimes it's about having the handling, the feel, the characteristics of it. So that's the slow speed handling. You can see it relatively benign, relatively stable. It does demonstrate wing rock. Let's get a bit of speed on now. Make sure the wings are playing as they should. Does demonstrate a lot of the features that the pilot's handbook says it should demonstrate. For information, the pilot's handbook, you can find it online. The reference is it's NavAir 01-F14AAD-1. Basically, it's a very good reference. Now, as we go through the transonic area of the flight envelope, it becomes neutral in terms of its stability, both in terms of pitch and in terms of yaw. Sorry, pitch and roll. It becomes divergent above that, and you'll see what I mean by divergent. And one of the key things there, it becomes ever so much harder to get a good trim speed. Now, what we'll do is we'll just get ourselves nose down to accelerate through the sound barrier. We're quite low, so the sound barrier is quite fast. The speed of sound is faster the closer you are to the ground. So we're at 0.97. We're at transonic speeds now. Let's see if it's going to show. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Sonic boom. 0.99. Mach 1. Let's keep going through the sound barrier, the drag from the sound barrier. Okay. Now the element now is how easy it is to trim and fly. And at the moment it's not too bad, so what we'll do is we'll convert our speed into height, and we'll go and have a look at higher altitude and see what we get. One of the joys of it, obviously being an interceptor, is the rate of climb you can get. Oh look, there's Cold Rose. Bit of wing rock coming in. Nice. Completely in line with what the handling notes say it should be doing. Speed's coming down nicely, altitude is climbing, going like a lovesick angel. We're above a layer of the high level cloud there, 20,000 feet. There's some cirrus further up as well. We're now at nearly 30,000 feet. Didn't take long. You know, that's got to be what, 20,000 feet a minute rate of climb. We'll go with that. So let's get ourselves back towards our high speed. So we're at Mach 0.53 already. Now it shouldn't take us too long up at this altitude to get towards the speed of sound, because it's slower altitude, and in theory we can go faster. Now, because we're at fairly low speed, both Mach number and indicated airspeed, the aircraft's fairly stable, so I can trim it relatively easily. I can put the nose where I want it, and I can trim accordingly. Beautiful up here. Look at that, Cornwall beneath us. the fantastic county that is Cornwall. Lived there for 5 years. Awesome place. Awesome place. So what we're going to do is we're going to help ourselves get transonic. Need the wings to start going back really. Let's get our airspeed going up quite quickly. We'll help ourselves here. I mean, these things do Mach 2, something ridiculous like that, but I can't be bothered to wait for that, so we're going down nice and quickly. Going to convert our height into speed. We'll go straight through the sound barrier. Right, as we go through, you can see almost immediately the wing rock started. We've got divergent wing rock. It's not playing ball. Let's see if we can Mach 1.9, 1.09, sorry. Let's see if we can trim it. Now, it doesn't want to trim. What's happening is, as I'm trimming it, it's playing silly games with me now, and it's divergent. So I trim it into a position, and what happens is it deviates from that position. And the book says it's very hard to trim, and it is. It's very, very hard to trim. So we'll control it where we are there. Get a good turn on it though, get a good wriggle on. That's nearly 5G there. Get ourselves to a position where we're nearly going to send ourselves to sleep. So all the flight characteristics appear, from what I've read, to be pretty much accurate. The final thing really now to look at really is in terms of the behaviour in the approach configuration. So heading back towards Cornwall. Culdrose should be just off to our right somewhere. If I've got us right in the right place. I think there it is, yep. That's it. So we'll go to the next inlet. Now the temptation at this point is to throw the aircraft around like you were a fighter pilot and go, oh, the bogey's over there, let's go over there. Let's go over there. Oh, lovely. I wanted to hear that sound. That sound is not structural, that sound is compressor stall. It's described as a series of loud bangs. It normally takes less than a second to resolve itself. And it's when you get disrupted airflow into the intakes of the engines, what then happens is the airflow in the compressor section, the front section of the engine, is disrupted sufficiently that you lose your airflow in the engine. Part of it basically reverses or stalls and doesn't go through because the blades in your engine are basically lots of mini wings. Wings are coming forwards again. That's the kind of noise we like to hear. There it is. Just left 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock maybe. Now one of the things they recommend is at low speed the speed brake's not particularly effective, so the best way to slow down is to use alpha, is to use positive alpha, because the speed bleeds off. This is a big heavy bird, 30 odd tons worth of bird. The speed comes off very quickly if you start pulling G, which is only to be expected really, because it is a big heavy bird. We'll stick our speed brake out for what good it is at this speed. You can see I've got it out and the speed's stable at 230, 231. I know we've got 10 degrees nose down, but that's not really the issue, is it? The issue is that the speed brake should be more effective than it is. Now one of the things I'm conscious not to do is to go into cross controls. You can use them momentarily. We might have to use them. We'll see how we get on. Right, let's get the gear out. Woo, bit of adverse yaw there. Now this is a big heavy bird, so we'll slow down very quickly indeed. Okay, it does have a couple of systems that aid with landing, so it's got a thing called DLC, and it's got an interlink between the rudder and... oh, just where you don't want a cloud, look. Just where you don't want a cloud. So in theory what you can then do is you can use your rudder and aileron. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? They're hiding the runway from me. This is bad. It's right to the nose, is it? Typical Cornish weather. Where's the runway gone? There it is. Okay. Oh, slow. Took my eye off the ball speed-wise. You could actually tell because we started to get a little bit divergent in roll there. It wasn't responding to what I was doing, so gear up, flaps up, let's get out of here. We'll do a non-standard missed approach. I'm not going to go too fast because otherwise we end up screaming away from the airfield. One of the videos, hopefully I'll do a carrier landing and demonstrate a carrier landing. Now, approaches. Approaches can be tricky if you let the speed go too low. And you'll see I didn't get a classic stereotypical stall. What I got was the instability in terms of pitch and roll. Roll more than pitch. Basically what then happened is the aircraft decided it was going to tell me that it wasn't happy. The roll became harder to control. Now you don't get that in most aircraft. In most aircraft the roll is quite wallowy, mellow, and doesn't really do a fat lot. In this bad boy, whew, it tells you all about it. It tells you it doesn't like it, because what then becomes harder is, well, that with the divergent roll oscillations you struggle to keep centerline. Now one of the things they do say in the notes is that sometimes you'll get oscillations in yaw, which then cause oscillations in roll, which the pilot detects the roll and not the yaw, and consequently what then happens is the pilot corrects for the roll, but inadvertently, because they don't realise it's not the roll that's the problem, it's the yaw, they induce adverse yaw and they stuff it into the ground as a result. So there's a lot to this aircraft to be learnt. This is the point where you need to just be careful with the throttles. The angle of attack's a little bit low, we're probably going a little bit too fast. The airfield is just right to the nose. It's hiding behind a cloud again. I can't believe it's doing that to me. Where's the runway lights with their nice intensity when you need them? So probably somewhere about there. Okay, so we are high. However, it's going to correct that nicely. Looking for an approach speed of about 140 ideally to get the alpha up. The alpha's coming up. A bit heavy-handed with the throttles. They're very sensitive, but there's a lot of lag in the engines with this thing. Okay, we're too low with our alpha, so let's stick the nose down as well. Get a bit of our speed control back. Bring the pipper back onto the numbers. You can hear me playing with the throttles a bit. We've got a certain amount of laxity in the roll response now. And the yaw. We're not going to flare. This is a carrier aircraft. Carrier aircraft do not flare. What we are going to do is get our angle of attack right. There we go, with the angle of attack indexer. Boom. That big thick undercarriage did exactly what it's designed to. And we're down. Safely down. So hopefully, guys, you can see that this is a challenging aircraft to fly, but it's by no means impossible, and it does reward having that effort put in terms of learning to fly it. Now obviously one of the elements that means is that if you're going to fly this in Tacpack, you need to properly learn how to handle this thing. This thing is not a carefree handling aircraft. It can and will bite, and in the next video I'm going to look at departures, which may have to be filmed in several takes, because there's a very good chance with the departures I will crash it into the ground repeatedly, because recovering from the departures is not easy. And obviously if you recall Top Gun, where they went out to sea in the flat spin and Goose got killed when they ejected and all that kind of good stuff, this can model flat spins. It's awesome. I'll see if I can get into one and see if I can get out of one, but you never know. It's that's what I'm going to have to do for the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to tick like, subscribe, or even better to share the video, and I will speak to you guys soon. Take care.